podcast to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of The Dynamic Pause with Coach Angie. And I am so excited today. You guys are in for a treat. I have with me Keisha Morris in the house. Look, we go way back, and just it's so weird how we were talking the other day. It's so weird how the Lord connects you to people. You may not see them, you may not even talk to them for real on the phone or anything, but there's still some sort of like connection that just goes through line. And for us, it started in an educational space, and it was really cool. We did some coaching together. We did some mentor coaching together. She was phenomenal then, and I want to tell you more about her. And I'm so excited about this conversation. So let me tell you a little about Keisha and get her a little uncomfortable. Okay. Keisha is an accomplished leadership and organizational development professional. With a passion for building healthy, high-performing cultures. I love that. And she's the director of leadership and organizational development with a regional healthcare system. She leads enterprise-wide strategies that equip leaders to inspire teams, elevate engagement, and drive organizational excellence. Oh my goodness. This is like my candy. Like, it's like I could, I get excited about this stuff. She has over 20 years of experience in leadership development, culture transformation, and strategic alignment. Oh gosh, you guys, don't you want her to come work for you or with you? Okay, Keisha's work integrates evidence-based leadership practices with values rooted in purpose, stewardship, and faith. She is currently pursuing her PhD, come on, Doc, in organizational leadership, focusing on how faith-informed leadership principles can shape modern organizational effectiveness and human flourishing. Man, if that's not the truth, I don't know what is. And I'm excited that you're doing the work to bring that to the forefront, because clearly you've been living it. So welcome.
I've been trying. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you today. Thank you so much for the invite. I cannot wait to get in this conversation. And you're right. It's been since like 2018, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I started connecting, and to know that we're still connected is truly a blessing. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, so cool. It's so cool. So we're going to dive in here, and we can take this conversation in whatever direction you feel comfortable, or just how it kind of goes. But I'm going to start it off. For those who are joining us for the first time, my podcast is named The Dynamic Pause for a reason. It's because I believe in high-performing leaders getting to take a pause that they never give themselves permission to take. Okay. And I've built some structures around that involve pausing to breathe. And there's a whole metaphorical sense to that, but we could do physical work in that space as well. Pausing to negotiate with the clarity that comes up when we allow ourselves to pause to breathe, and then pausing to innovate from the work that we did with the work that came up in that clarity. Like there's something to that. And there's a circle of life in that, in a lot of ways, that we can put on repeat over and over again once we find our groove. And so some of my questions will kind of come from that headspace, because that's just kind of where I live. But it doesn't have to go there. It can go wherever we want it to go today. So let's kick it off and tell us about your journey into leadership and organizational development. When did you first realize it was your calling?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Actually, I've always really had a propensity for leadership and for leadership training, excuse me. And it was kind of hard to break into. It's one of those areas that, when people are in that area, they stay there until they die, almost in a way.
Right.
Or retire. And so it's really difficult to be able to kind of get into that area. But I remember starting off as like a computer systems trainer, training on like software and things of that sort. that really evolved into an opportunity to move into leadership training. And so it actually happened kind of I wasn't expecting it. Two teams had merged at a former employer that I was working with. The systems training team and the leadership development team kind of came together, and I said, "Oh, this is my
Oh,
opportunity to be able to kind of get into that realm." And so I started off doing the basic entry level things like doing new employee orientation and kind of all those things that nobody wants to do. But
exactly.
right, but I was like, no, I want to kind of get in at the ground floor, and
Mm.
that really opened the door for me to be able to move into more and more leadership and organizational development type work, and it kind of just took off from there. And I really had the honor of being led by a leader that lived and breathed LNOD and lived and breathed OD specifically. And she
Mm.
taught me so much. And so being able to be under her tutelage and to watch her example really just kind of fed my desire to be able to help people grow, help organizations really appreciate their greatest asset, which are the people, and really kind of
Mm-hmm.
help individuals just kind of soar and do what they want to accomplish and live to their fullest potential. And so that was kind of my entry into it. And I get up and I do it. I get to do it every day, and I love it.
Love
Uh,
it. Oh.
my why, and I always coming back to that, especially when I get involved in kind of the things that are outside of that, but I have to remember that I'm put in places to help people grow and help people kind of thrive wherever they are. And I take that as my personal assignment and my personal calling to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. That is so cool. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking through the pause, and we kind of started talking about this a little bit the other day, transitions and things that happen to us sometimes in our life. And so me wanting to provide the dynamic pause for people came out of something. I want people to get to choose it, right? That's my goal, is for people to get to choose it. It doesn't always happen that way. In my personal circumstance, it didn't. Stuff happened and boom,
Right.
I'm pausing. You know what's going on?
Force pause.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a forced pause. I wanted to make sure, didn't happen on repeat like things that happened previously in my life, And so along those lines, you and I have not coached the dynamic pause together, but is there something in your life or a situation in your life that brought you to a pause that you might be able to share with us about?
Yeah, a really big one. Actually,
Okay.
about almost 2.5 years ago, my husband passed away kind of unexpectedly. And it was one of those things that, I was in the middle of I just started a new job, just the job that I'm currently in right now. Really it was a big promotion for me. I went up like 2 levels to get into the position I am now.
Wow.
And it came out of nowhere. So it's when something like that happens, you have that forced pause. And so you have
Wow.
an opportunity to kind of rethink life and rethink
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, while you're doing it. Do you still want to do it?
Right.
And I've not only been on a professional journey since then, but also just a personal and a spiritual journey since then. So,
Wow.
and a physical journey since then. So it's almost like it's a full transformation
Wow.
for who I was just 2.5 years ago to, who's before you now. And it's been hard, and it's been stretching, but it's also been really good, and it's also been a blessing. So,
Mm.
a lot of times we think about pauses, and I know earlier we were talking about just being able to breathe, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're able to breathe in spaces we never thought we would be able to breathe in. And so
Wow.
really just over the past 2.5 years, I've learned to catch my breath and also to allow breath to just envelop me. And
Mm.
so it's been a beautifully hard journey, but it's been good.
Wow. I had no idea, and my condolences, big time friend. And
Yeah.
listen, put me on that list for the 911s if they are ever still showing up and you need to talk,
Yeah.
because I am here for you in
Thank
that
you.
way. And right before we were on, we were talking about breathing, and we were talking and how I had an experience today that it was all about breathing, and how much released for me when I allowed the breaths to kind of get in there and fully saturate in those moments. And I can only imagine the fact that you're sitting before us today, 2 years ago is not that long.
It's not. It's really not.
And for you to be here, and sometimes we have to kind of split ourselves into a few pieces in order to function in one space while we fall apart in another space. And
100%.
but tell me a little bit more about what breathing looked like for you. I know beyond your time away that I'm hoping that you took time,
I
but
did.
when you came back, what does breathing look like for you as a leader? How do you create that space that's necessary for your reflection and the different things that you might need in this season?
So I really practice reflection, just to be honest, in my prayer closet.
Oh, that's
So
good.
I
Yeah.
I take the time when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel like I don't have the answers. I really just spend time in my prayer closet. I practice Christianity, and so, with the Lord, and just allowing the gift of silence to be
Mm,
able to take over,
mm,
and for me just to be able to decompress, so to
mm,
speak. And so, in those moments of decompressing, I verbally articulate, I'm opening myself up to
mhm.
what God wants to say to me. I'm opening my heart, I'm opening my mind, and really just allowing for the breath of life, so to speak, to really just come in and to do what it does, right? Which is to
Right.
provide clarity, provide wisdom, and just kind of give me the next steps, which is really
Mhm.
important, right? I found myself over the last two and a half years in my new role facing challenges I've never faced before. Not so
Okay.
much with work, but with interpersonal relationships with leaders and, people
Mm,
who work with. And I've never been in situations where I've literally had to, just approach those relationships very differently than I have before. And really, just to be very honest, being able to understand my worth in places where, quite honestly, not everybody understood the value,
ooh,
right? And
yeah.
so being able to be in spaces where, I had to come back into center and allow the Lord just to reaffirm, well, really tell me who I was and reaffirm
Uh-huh.
that and give me the strategy around how do you approach that. It's been a game changer. And of course I journal as well, and so that's always really good. So being able to have those spaces where I'm just able to be in those quiet, intimate spaces with the Lord has just been a game changer for me, and that's how I breathe.
That is so good. Oh my gosh, that is so good. I'm like, all these things are kind of coming up for me. I'm like, Angie, stay on task. Yeah, not necessarily that there is a task, but I could ask 1,000 questions
Yeah,
in
yeah.
that because there's so many ways that you can go. Like I'm thinking of right now, um, how prior to before your husband passed, did you have that same kind of approach I know you hadn't dealt with it from a professional standpoint where you're really engaging with people at work that way, but I'm thinking more from the aspect of how you saw yourself. Was that something that also changed
Oh yeah.
in that new space?
Yeah, absolutely. My late husband, he was incredible. And so, he was here. So we would spend time and he would basically affirm, right? Affirm,
Okay.
kind of give me, the things that I needed in those spaces. And when he wasn't here anymore, I didn't have anybody to be able to fill that role. And
Oh,
so, me being able to now go to the Lord and kind of just, hey, what's happening here, first of all?
yes.
And just to be honest about how I was feeling and about what was happening, and then just to allow him to speak to me and to affirm who I am. It was a game changer. I'll give you an example. There was a situation that had come up where, again, just the way that I saw myself and the value I brought, it didn't translate. And so
Mm,
I'll
mm,
put it
mm,
that way.
mm.
At least to my leader, it didn't translate. And so I really left one day feeling absolutely like ground zero, really underneath the table type of.
Right.
And I went home and I just kind of like, took a lot of breaths, I'll be
Hmm.
honest with you, and just kind of moped around. And the Lord was very clear with me. He was like, don't allow anybody to take from you who you are. And that,
Wow.
I mean, it sounds really basic, but to
But
be
it's
able
not.
to hear that and to just talk about, you have to go into this space and don't let anybody dictate who you are. You know who you are, and go in there, do what you need to do the way you need to do it. And then that just be it. And it was a game changer for me. I walked in Monday like, I know there's a lot happening here, but I'm still going to show up as Keisha Morris. I'm still going to do my job with excellence. I'm still going to do all the things that I know I'm here to do. And you can do whatever you want to in the periphery, but I'm going to still show up as her. I'm
I
still going to
love
show up as
it.
her. I'm going to show up as her physically. I'm going to come in here suited and booted because that's what I do. And I'm going to come in here and do my job. So
Oh my gosh.
good morning and good night. I'm right here.
Right? Oh my
So,
gosh. And
yeah.
people don't also people who have gotten accustomed to speaking over people in that way, like very matter of factly sucking the life out. There's just some people that's what they do. Like they do that in every area. We can get into the psychology of it, of how come and all the other stuff, but there are sometimes people that is their gig. They are only there to remove life. That's it. They don't often know how to engage with someone who comes in like you did on Monday. They're
Yeah.
they're used to dealing with the people who shrink, who make whatever adjustment. And the sad part about that is sometimes they will do something so detrimental that does come home with you, that does, all the things to just because they're trying to get a pin to move from point A to point B. Like you got to wreck my whole life because you trying to move a pin. Like
Yeah.
I'm need you to chill because and that lesson that you learn from the Lord speaking it to you.
Yeah.
Thank the
Yeah.
Lord because there's people who go a whole lifetime. Like I could see evolutions in my life along the way where I got better at not accepting that kind of thing, but it took way too long. I'm just like,
The thing is that I didn't even know people did that, to be
right.
honest with you. That's the thing that kind of threw me off because all of my prior work experiences, I've never had to face that. So to come into a space where, your value is being questioned on a daily basis is just
Mm,
something that it's when you talk about something that matures you quickly,
right.
it matures you quickly. And so, that is, I just didn't even realize people did that. And so that
Yes,
was a
friend.
surprise in and of itself. But you grow up when you face adversity, and you grow up when you face, situations that make you kind of reassess. And I think one of the greatest lessons I learned in that situation is that not only did I come in with a new level of self-confidence, but I also came in with a sense of humility and meekness I didn't have before. Like I was
Ooh,
able
I
to
love
say,
it.
I was able to say, if this is what, if this is what you want, then this is what we're going to do, and just kind of stopped trying to prove myself and defend
Mm,
myself in spaces, and just
mm-hmm.
allow my work to say what it was going to say, and just to allow things to be what they needed to be. Because I think sometimes, I know for me, I tried to hold on to things to make things go the way that I wanted. And that was a great lesson for me to say, listen, just flow with the stream.
Yeah.
If this works out, great. If it doesn't work out, it'll be okay. We'll figure it out, right? And me losing my husband, not only did he provide kind of that affirmation that I needed, to be very honest with you, but I always had an out, right? It was like, if
Mhm.
this didn't work, like, we can make this work. But it
Right.
was no longer a we, it was now a I. And so I had to figure
Woo.
out, how do I make this work?
Oh,
Because
wow.
I don't have a plan B. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this that we have to figure this out in what it is. And so
Sure.
being able to do that was a great learning
Woo.
experience. It was super
That's
hard.
so
Not
powerful.
gonna lie.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So, we talked about breathing and everything. The other part that I work with people on is that pause to negotiate. And what that is like negotiating with whatever clarity rose to the top for you in that breathing moment, right? You've shared a little bit with us today. I can hear some through line and you needed affirmation. It was once provided for you by your husband. You knew it was still an empty spot. you went to the Lord for it. You know what I'm saying? So you still kept that through. But there's some clarity and identity work that happens when you start actually seeing yourself as a person who needs it. Because sometimes those things are happening for you automatically based on who the other people are in your lives. So if it's there because that's just who they are, you may not necessarily get to connect yourself with the idea that it's an identity piece for you and you're just living life, right? And so when that thing is done and it's not there anymore, you're like, hold up, wait a minute, you know? So the negotiation piece is that during your pause that you were dealing with, what truths or tensions surfaced that you had to negotiate with? And were there beliefs about yourself or leadership or even what successes that that you had to reconsider based on your capacity and whatever else?
I think one of the biggest lessons or things I had to negotiate in is the discomfort of it.
Mm,
And the discomfort of just life, right? I had
mm-hmm.
personally, the discomfort of, being a widow and no
Yeah.
longer having a husband, my husband who's here. Then at work, just kind of the tension that was happening there. And then even me really learning my position and my role because like I said, it was a new position for
New.
me, a
Yeah.
promotion for me. So really having to negotiate those things. And so being able to negotiate the discomfort of it and to be able to negotiate the not knowing in it
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
is still something that I work with on a consistent basis, and just allowing whatever needs to unfold and be okay with it.
Oops. Yeah.
That's always been, that continues to be something that I really kind of negotiate with on a daily basis because let's just be honest, we just like to control things. And so,
Mm-hmm.
when things have become out of your control, just that old adage, you can only control what you can control. And so learning what it was that I can control, and I knew that I can control me, and so that's
Mm-hmm.
what I went to control, right? And so
Right.
those are the things that, I really just try to work with and continue to try to work with today.
Yeah, I think leaders, especially if it's always kind of come naturally, you of course develop as a leader. That's why you have a job. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? But there is a piece that you are not afraid to go after something. Like if something needs to be done, you don't have to be called a leader. It's just that if you have an eyesight, so you see things, so you don't mind being the one to step in to kind of help, right? But then there's the other piece too where you're also called on because you do have the reputation for being that go-to person, and people, whether it's family, work, friends, community, you kind of find yourself in that place where people are calling on you too. So a lot of, I think, in my opinion, some of the control stuff comes because you're just used to being the one having to make the call. But then it does become a thing, you know what I'm saying? And next
But
thing you know, you don't know how to necessarily operate without that piece. So
yeah.
that is a big thing to have to negotiate with. This is one that kind of it's going to have a more of a works slant to it. But what identity shifts have you experienced as you've moved from doing the work to being the leader? And what did you have to let go of? And also, what did you have to embrace?
So this is a big one. And I think this happens with a lot of leaders, especially when they move from kind of, the individual contributor type of role to now you are
Mm-hmm.
leading, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the biggest things that I've had to learn is understanding what strategic means, right? Being a strategic visionary,
Mm-hmm.
to not only in my head, but in the head to those that I report to, right? So it's
Yes,
kind of like really understanding, well, what do you mean by strategic? What do you mean by visionary,
that's
right?
so good.
And being able to align yourself with that because I can have my own ideas about what I think it is, right? And this is kind of been one of my missteps, just to be very honest. I think that have great ideas, and so this is the way it should go, right? But then to like go in front of leadership, my leader or leadership team, and they're like, that's totally not what we're thinking, right? And so
Mm,
being able to position yourself to align yourself with what is the strategic vision of those that are responsible for the overall organizational strategic vision,
Sure.
and then being able to operate in that. Your offer your seasoning on it, but still understand what the meal is, so to speak, and then being able to work.
I
It's
love that
important.
analogy.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
important. And so, even as one of the things I struggled with was letting go of being able to do the details of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Allowing my team to do it, and then me being responsible for the overall orchestration, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a big one. And then also allowing my team, members of my team, to be the one to present the ideas and not just
Oh,
it just be, right? So again, that control piece. But what I've learned is, hey, my job is to train and to develop my team so that when they
mm-hmm.
present, they're presenting themselves, but I'm also giving them the guardrails to be able to present it the way that it needs to be presented, or the way that, my overall vision has it, right? Because again, there are things that I'm aware of that they're not aware of, as well as there
Exactly.
are things that my leaders are aware of that I'm not aware of. So being able
Mm-hmm.
to trust what people are saying without necessarily knowing the details. And so, just to be honest, my team and I, we've had to negotiate that a little bit, right? But it's one of those things that now we're in the groove and we all understand, hey, I need to trust you just as well as you need to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
We're in this together, because my desire as your leader is to make sure that we all succeed and that we all look good, right?
Yes.
So being able to build that kind of like underlying viewpoint is has been very, very important.
I know I'm reading a book right now, and it's one of the things it talks about is inspiring a vision. So that's
Mm.
one of the key markers of a good leader. I'll have to send you this book, but they
Oh,
did a bunch of research and they asked people to think about their best experience as a leader or with who they thought was the best leader that they've ever experienced, and they asked it across the country. It's actually international. They were asking it in all kind of different workplaces, and five things floated to the top. And one of them was a great leader always models the way. The other one was that they are able to inspire a shared vision. And in order to be able to inspire a shared vision, there has to be that trust that you're
yes.
talking about, right? So challenge the process is another one. So not being afraid to challenge process it, but sprinkling your seasoning on it, right? It's because they, even though they want you to understand their strategic vision, they don't want you to be like regurgitating. They have you in the role for a reason, right? They just want to know that the sprinkling is happening within the same place that they're going. But
100%.
even as relationships develop, even in that, because you've only been at it for a short time, it's likely that they're going to kind of give you a, hey, why don't you just show us what you would do in this area at some point. That could happen, right? But challenging the process, enable others to act. That is something you spoke to today, that you've already learned that that's what you had to do. Like, let me let them do this, right? And lastly, encourage the heart. There's a piece to, if you want people to feel like they have purpose, regardless of what the job is, they need to feel bought in to what's happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I here and why am I doing this? And I think we learned that post COVID, during COVID for the ones who were essential, but post COVID, people started making decisions about work a whole lot differently. I heard you talking and it just like those elements were floating to the top for me. So I was just like, yeah.
I love that piece about encouraging the heart. And it's so true. I really stand by the piece about, if you're able to really let your team know that you care about them as individuals, then they
Mm-hmm.
are 100%, they'll share your vision. They'll
Yeah.
learn to trust. They'll be open, and really kind of build that overall rapport and trust that's so important. But I found that you really have to honor their humanity, and you
Mm-hmm.
really have to honor who they are in their hearts, and that they really want to do a good job, and really kind of encourage them along the way. And it goes so long, and it doesn't have to necessarily be work. It's, I found even on with my team, just understanding who they are as people has
Mm-hmm.
been tremendous for me, but it's also built a sense of, cohesion within the team.
Yeah.
so important. I think a lot of times we overlook that because of the rapid pace that we're doing business. Honestly, like that's not going to stop. Like it's still
It's
you're
still
going
going to be there.
to.
Yes, exactly.
But to your point about pausing, even just pausing to understand what's happening in their family life, right? If they're
Yeah.
comfortable with sharing, or just little things that matter to them matter, and it really does
Hmm.
go a long way.
That's so good, man. It there's so much just truth in that. In our history of having jobs, we can all think back to a time when we were somewhere and attached to something that you might have been running like we run, we run
Right.
hard, but also find yourself in a moment, it would be like, if I died tomorrow, them jokers would not care. They would literally just be like, where's the next person that's coming up that's
Can
gonna,
somebody post this?
who's gonna
Yes.
do this now?
The truth. It's the absolute truth.
And there has been such a season, I feel like, where people get lost in the go go go,
Mhm.
and that everything's 911, go 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 go, and that has been used as an excuse to not engage with the people that they're in front of. It
Yeah,
literally takes a lot more work to be a great leader.
it does.
If you can set that sucker on neutral if you want to, and then you're just going to have potential bombs that are going to blow up pretty soon, or you're going to be on a high turnover, whatever, which any of us who know that work know that you're
Yep.
spending way more money when you're turning over every five
And
minutes.
time.
So, yeah, there's just so much more to it where intuitively a person feels like there's not enough time to do that kind of engagement when really you are winning, even on an ROI level, you're going to win by engaging with your people like that.
100%.
They show up better, they're more creative, they do, you know what I'm saying? Like, come
They
on,
work harder. They really
they
do. They'll
stay at the
work,
job longer.
stay at the job longer. They'll do more. Yeah,
If you
all of
if
that.
you actually if you help them pursue their dreams, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? They're going to be your mouthpiece out there in the
Yes.
world. And if they
Yes.
can't work for you, you need to go work for so and so. You need
You
to go work for, you
and
know.
girl, you are talking about like look,
Okay.
part of what I do at my work is we do engagement. And so I
Okay.
have so many conversations with leaders about, oh, well, I'm afraid that so and so may, because I always say, listen, you're not going to really be able to give them more salary, right? You
Sure.
have to think about other ways to really help your team member kind of,
Mm-hmm.
excel and to kind of build that. And I always give the example of, hey, you try to develop your person, see what it is they want to do. And I always get the question, well, what if it's outside of my department? I say, you celebrate that and you give that person what they need, but then they'll
Yeah.
leave. But yes, they'll leave.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
happens is, number one, you become a part of their legacy. They'll always remember the impact that you had on their lives. And number two, because you were such a great leader, they'll talk to their friends and family to come work for you. So you'll have a
For
revolving door.
sure.
I promise you, I say that all the time, and they look at me like, really? And I'm like, trust me on this, right?
Yeah.
But you have
Yeah.
to be able to, you have to be comfortable as a leader to know that you're doing a good job if you have good turnover. If
Yes, the good
but
kind. Look,
the
they
good
said the good trouble. That is
right,
something you
exactly.
want because it really shows that you, first of all, can we just put some stuff in the bucket for, like you said, humanity? Can we
Yeah,
can we just do a good thing? Is that allowed? Even
right,
while we're turning cogs and
right.
and making rivets, can we be good to each other, to one another,
Yes,
celebrate someone?
yes,
Grieve with someone if
yeah,
that's what it takes, even when you have to still do work, right? Can
yes,
we make time and space for one another? And even in the climate that we're in today, where, tons of layoffs are happening from a federal level and other situations are changing, even in that, what's not changed is people still know that they're worth something.
right,
And
right.
that is huge because in our history, and not just ours, I'm thinking of like industrial revolution, even in some stuff before that, people, they did not know with the all knowing that they were worth something.
Right.
They believed the hierarchical structure as well, and
Yep.
that it you had to be producing in order to be worth something. You were either producing or you own the product, right? Those
Right.
two things. And so, what people are understanding now, and it's still going to make life difficult, sure, but that they would rather eat rice every day than work somewhere
A
where
hundred.
they're, you know what I'm saying? Than work somewhere where they're treated poorly or they're just not cared for as a person.
Yes, 100%. And one of the key elements of my personal leadership philosophy is that, as your leader, I have a responsibility not only to you, but for you. And so
Yeah.
what I mean by that is I firmly believe that if I have the honor of being your leader, that my personal faith says that I'm now responsible for you and I need to steward you, right? And so that means that my job is to help to make you better so that
Yeah.
you move forward, right? It's not
Yeah.
to keep you, it's not to hold you down. It's not to be a dictator over you. It's to make you better in whatever capacity, whether
Hmm.
that's personally or professionally or both or
Yeah.
whatever, to help you move forward because we're all placed in each other's lives
Yeah.
to make deposits so you can go on and be great wherever you're supposed to be great. So look, I don't want to get to the pearly gates and somebody says, well, you got missed that opportunity with so and so. No, I'm going to do all that I can to make sure that
Mhm.
you're able to get to where you need to get to fulfill your purpose. So
Purpose, your dreams, to even know that you can dream. And
100%.
my dreaming didn't start till way later because I just who had time for dreaming, and also just how I was raised in the environment that I was raised in and my personality. It really was, although I kept finding myself in leadership positions, my front facing self was go where you're told, speak when you're told to speak, those types of things. And so it was very much so, sure, I'll do it. Sure. Even how we met each other, it happened the same way. It was like,
Okay.
hey, are you available? Can you pop in on this? Is how it started. Can you pop in and do this, teach the second half of my class for me? And I was like, sure. And that's how my whole journey to that life started. Not because
Wow.
I pursued to go do that thing. And then you flash forward to these years of where we are now. And I was kind of looking at my stuff, before I kicked off this entrepreneurial adventure I'm on right now. And I was talking to someone and I was like, oh, yeah, I used to teach this and blah, blah, blah. But I said it like, it was like nothing almost, right? And then somebody said something to me that made me pause. And I was like, I wonder if the school will write something up for me. I reached out to them and girlfriend, when they sent it back, it was just like, Angela was the professor of the dot, 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 dot. Never once had I paused to think of it that way, which is
Yeah.
so sad. And when you're talking about the pearly gates thing, that's what got me on this journey because I was like, Lord, I can't be the person with the one talent that buried it in the ground to
Mm,
make it safe for you, to keep
yeah.
it safe for you. When you gave me this, and this, and part of the this, and this was my voice. And I literally had diminished my voice, but I was also always in situations where I shrunk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like always. And so this is a whole new era. We both are on a new journey together, girl. And so I'm excited for it. So last about my whole pause method is innovation. What now? What do we do with what we have learned? But even if we keep the through line of what you've shared with us today, what would you say is something that either you have innovated or that you would love to see innovation in based on what you've shared with us about your pause?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I don't really know how to answer that. I
Yeah.
mean, you, it's funny. I really find myself kind of discovering one of the gifts that I've received since my husband Tony passed away is this idea of becoming. And
Ah,
so, what am I becoming? And so, really allowing myself the room to do things that I never thought I would do, like podcasts.
yes.
uh,
Hey.
do things that I only dreamed about doing outside of the scope of what I've done, up until this point. And so when I think about innovation, I really just think about you said it earlier, allowing myself to dream past what I know,
Mm,
and really allowing myself to be scared in some things.
yeah.
One of the things, like for my dissertation, I'm actually looking to develop a leadership construct around what it means to be a kingdom leader. And so I
Okay.
know there's a kingdom leader kind of construct out there, but really just understanding a little bit deeper. And so for me, that innovation is that how do I understand kind of how I'm created, what I'm created for, and how does that fit into the overall kingdom vision of the Lord and what I'm supposed to be doing on earth and how I'm
I
supposed to
love
operate in
it.
that. And so
Mm.
that, I mean, that in of itself, is innovation, not something that I think that I would have set out to do. When I was in that class or that school, I mean, I
Hmm.
was really just trying to hold on like this, like the cat on the rope, trying to get it
Yes.
program, and then to allow myself to be exposed to leadership and what that really means and kind of going down
Hmm.
the road. It's been a journey. And to that point, when you were talking about how you got into kind of coaching and teaching, it was just someone kind of saying, "Hey," and tapping you on the shoulder, "Can you do this real quick?" I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. Some
Right.
people are very, very focused and they know exactly what it is they want to do and
Hmm.
kind of go after it. And other people like me, I'm like, well, where's the tide taking you? Because I'm supposed to go down the river, see where it lands, right?
It's
And
so true.
it's nothing wrong with that. It's just how you get there, right? But it's
Yeah.
all about when you're at those kind of junction points, what do you do with it, right? Do you
Yeah.
continue on or do you decide to, retreat? And I think that both of us have decided just to move on into dark waters and just believe that we're going to find our way, and that's something that takes a lot of courage. And so if you're out there and you feel that way, you are in good company
You're in
because
good company. We know how to do it. Look, they can
yeah,
start a
not
whole practice after us.
absolutely. So not everybody knows exactly what they want to do, but just being willing to go on the journey just allows
Hmm.
you to experience so much. So
Yeah, I preach that like a lot for young people if I'm talking to them about when they're kind of entering that season of life when it's time to graduate, and you can
mhm.
almost see the fear on them sometimes, right? And
Yeah,
I remember me being like so frozen because I didn't have this certainty of I want to do this, kind of a
right.
thing. So
Yeah,
then there came this paralysis even around not having the certainty
yes,
because that's that firstborn to me. And it's like, I'm supposed to know this answer. Like, what's
exactly.
the problem? Kind of like thing.
100%.
But this pausing, it allows you to kind of just see some things about yourself,
Yeah,
whether it's from a faith perspective, what is the Lord showing you today? You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Because, you get us talking, we're going to say it was the Lord, even if y'all don't believe it was him.
right.
But that's not, I'm not forcing faith on anyone, y'all.
Right.
Don't
It's just
come at
our
me. Don't come
reality.
at
Yeah.
me. But it is something in that pausing and the slowing down. It's an area of trust because as high performing, highly productive people, y'all, if you're in that vein with us, you're named something. I've named you. You are a productivity perfectionist, right? But when we're living like that, we don't understand life without the movement and without the fast paced movement. When it slows down enough, we have already put something else in the next lineup, or we allow others to bring it to us and we will say yes, like kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But there is a trust that's built and such clarity and vision, mostly about yourself, if we allow it, that comes if we allow ourselves to pause. It really just let it happen, people. It feels
Yeah.
scary. It is scary a little bit, like
Yeah.
you had mentioned, but it's worth it. It's worth it for the sight because we're moving so fast we don't see.
Yes.
But then later, it's worth it when we're ready to kind of work through the pieces that we want to keep and that identity moment that we're working through. What are we keeping out of all of this? Like, you get to choose that, Keisha. Like,
We
what you
do.
learned in this season of life, you get to choose whether you keep it or not and what you do
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think a lot of times we allow people to put on our coats.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Like you should go do this, right? And so
Yes. Oh my
if we're
gosh.
not sure, we say, okay, or you've seen or you follow a pattern that's in your family or whatever have
Mm-hmm.
you. And you're right. When we allow ourselves to pause, we're now able to see those holes where it's like,
Yeah.
well, this is good, but maybe there's something else, right? And
Yeah.
you allow yourself the space to say, well, let me go check out that, right? And that's so important because even in the thing that you're in, if you see those specks of light, it can still lead you to where you're supposed to be in that thing, right?
Right.
Instead of going somewhere where you just think you're supposed to be. Like,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when I came out of college, we all thought we had to go to Wall Street because that's what we were taught, right?
Yes.
I
Yes.
ended up going to Richmond. Who wants to go to Richmond? You know what I mean? Like, Richmond's a great city, but I went
Sure.
where all the action was, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
even in me going to Richmond, I was able to find my place. And
Yeah.
so just allowing yourself that space is really important.
Oh, I love that. And I love what you said about flowing down the river because there is that. Um, I think getting so hyper focused that it has to be the one thing and the one place has really constricted and really imprisoned a lot of people when really we get this whole big old world. And guess what? You could be this today and then 15 years from now decide you want to be this other thing. And guess what? If you're doing the work
Yep.
mentally for yourself and emotionally and all that, you're not gonna have a problem with that. You're gonna go just go do it. Go
Yeah.
do it. It's so good. Yeah. I'm
And
so
okay,
excited.
it's okay to start again, right? And it's
Yes.
that, and it's funny, we always think about when we have to let something go, we have to start over. And it's like, no,
Hmm.
you don't have to start over. You just start again.
Start
Everything that you
again.
learned up until that point is still 100% valuable for you to go into your next thing.
That's
You
so
just get to
good.
start again. You just
Start
get to
again. I like just let's change the language because that it means something. It really
start.
means something. When you say start over, especially in that scenario, it implies that you failed at something or that you had to scratch it and do all. Now there's some things that have happened and I'm like, I'm glad I was scratching that. But
Right.
but you're right, just start again. And that's so beautiful. And I think that's a wonderful nugget for y'all to be chewing on as we close up. Keisha, thank you so much for being here with me today and sharing with everybody. And there's nothing like a good old, authentic, vulnerable, open conversation. And
Yes.
that's really what I wanted to bring to the people. And you've done it so eloquently and naturally. You're in the process of your PhD now. Is that going to resolve in a book? What is the plan? Do you know?
Everybody keeps asking me that, so I guess it will. I mean, again, I'm flowing down the river. I'm trying to
Okay.
make sure that, I have something to give. And so the other thing is really making sure that I understand this is just the beginning of it and not the
Yeah,
end of it, right?
that's
So,
so good. Yeah.
right? So, because I think a lot of times when you have kind of the notion that maybe something can move into like a book status that you put everything in there, and it's
Mm.
like, no, you can have a series, right? So this is
Yes, a
the first part of the
series,
series and the next part of the series.
additions.
Yes. And so
Yes.
I think it might end up because I promise you, every time I talk about my dissertation, somebody always says, "Are you going to make it into a book?" So I'm like,
Yeah.
well, let the Lord have his way.
Let him have his way, and then if it does, make sure you reach out and let us know because I want to be able to tell everybody where to find it when it's time. I don't
Thank
care how
you.
long it is from now. I just had another friend who just completed her PhD journey, and I'm so excited. Just walked this past weekend. So
Oh, that's
however
so
long
awesome.
that takes, whatever
Thank
that looks like, we want to
Yeah,
celebrate with you. So make sure
thank
you
you.
share that with us.
Well, thanks so much.
Yes, and everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to know more about Keisha, we're going to have some stuff in the show notes. But then also, if you want to know what it means to take a pause, hit me up. I'll have a link. We can do that. We're gonna, I'm building a community of people. I'm calling it the break room where just leaders come together
Uh,
and just talk about stuff and but yeah, there's lots of ways to engage with the dynamic pause. So I want to be able to do that for you guys. All right. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you have an awesome, awesome day. Bye, guys.
Take care.
Okay. Are you a productivity perfectionist hiding behind your checklist or a seasoned leader frustrated by what used to work but doesn't anymore? You've been holding your breath for too long. Ataruka specializes in helping ambitious professionals take their dynamic pause to breathe, negotiate, and innovate their way forward. From one-on-one coaching to team consulting and workshops, we'll help you rediscover your core purpose and lead with conviction. The life you desire isn't as far away as it seems. Start your journey at transform.coach.
Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent. Take a pause in the moment. Breathe deep, let the soul lift. The podcast is to grow with. The clarity is potent.